So before we get to the scripture lesson, I want to take a couple seconds and talk to y'all for a little while personally. A couple weeks ago, Epworth Children's Home came and they talked about this new system, new program they have through Epworth's foster care program. And that day, I was able to preach in the traditional service. And, but I'm not sure if the word got quite over here. I'm sure it did to some extent. But so that day we preached on the Beatitudes, and I got to talk about how we are all blessed and blessed by people that sometimes we don't consider to be blessed. And then I had a little surprise in the worship that I too am in the process of becoming a foster parent. So y'all sometimes get things like a little bit later since one person preaches there and one person preaches here. So I wanted to let y'all know that at some point, probably in a month or two, there will be a little tot running around my ankles. So I'm asking for a child 0 to 3 of a gender I don't know. I'm not exactly sure when he or she will be here or how long he or she will stay. But it is very exciting, and I've already been blown away by your love and your acceptance and your offering of clothes and strollers and baby showers. And I've been so blessed by this community already. And as a single person, I would not even begin to fathom what it would be like to do this alone. So I know that I am not alone in this community. So I'm so thankful already. And just when there's a child around, y'all know where it came from and that it did not come from me. And I am happy to talk to you about what that process would be like. I know that some of you may be interested, some of you may have that call as well, and I would love to talk about the ins and outs of that. I'm not doing it so other people will do it, but that would be an incredible blessing as well. There's about, I had a little brain freak just now. I think there's 4,000 children in the system right now in South Carolina and 1,400 registered licensed foster parents. So that's a huge discrepancy, as y'all can tell. And some of you may have heard some changes that are going on at Epworth. So some legislations happened and a lawsuit happened, and that sometimes changes things. So children under 12 are no longer able to be placed in group homes. So Epworth is considered a group home. So now they need more foster parents than ever before. So it is a good time for me and for others if y'all are called. But I just wanted to let y'all know, hopefully this summer, and I really don't know anything besides that, but I have a lot of baby toys in my house, so we will put them to good use. So let us now turn to our scripture. It comes from the book of Acts, chapter 2, verses 43 through 47. That's good. So let us read together. Awe came upon everyone because many wonders and signs were being done by the apostles. All who believed were together and all things had in common. They were to sell their possessions and goods and distribute the proceeds to all as any had need. Day by day, they spent much time together in the temple. They broke bread at home and ate their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having the goodwill of all people. And day by day, the Lord added to the number of those who were being saved. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Amen. So on Wednesday night, many of us gathered here in this place, and we feasted on chicken fingers and macaroni and cheese. And then we journeyed together into the sanctuary, where we had the shape of a cross in ashes placed on our heads. We heard that we are humans and that we are mortals, and as we came from dust, we too will return to dust. Pastor Smoke preached about the importance of being aware of our own sinfulness and our need to repent. The Greek word for repent is metanoia. Does anyone know what the word literally means? My friends? I bet y'all know. I bet y'all are just a little bit shy. But the word metanoia means to turn around. Wells knows, because he is a very smart kid. It means to turn around. And as we begin these 40 days of Lent, we have an opportunity to turn around. To turn from our sinfulness, to turn from our greed, to turn from our materialism. Christians all over the world are giving up things that impede our faith journeys or adding something to bring them closer to God. I know each one of you is probably giving something up or adding something. Wells is giving up biting his fingernails. Some other people are giving up beverages. Good job, Wells. I'm so proud of you. Some of us are giving up chocolate or sugar or sodas, whatever kind of helps us in our daily routine. So we all are trying to figure out ways to turn around and get back on track and live as Christ lived. And then to take some time to examine in ourselves how we ought to live differently. Today, on this first Sunday of Lent, we begin a sermon series on John Wesley's 3 simple rules. For the next 5 weeks, we will be preaching on these 3 rules. And you may be thinking, how are you going to do that for 5 weeks? So today we'll do an introduction. The next 3 weeks we will do each rule a week, and then the final week we'll do a conclusion. And hopefully many of you will also be using this same study in your Sunday school class. Our hope is that this series gives you practical ways to grow in your faith in this Lenten season, but also far after this Lenten season. So, many of us know that John Wesley is the founder of Methodism, but a lot of us don't know a whole lot after that. Some of us hear the phrase Methodist history and we begin to nod off a little bit. But in order for us to really understand how we are to learn from our early Methodist brothers and sisters, we need to know about our early Methodist brothers and sisters. So here are some fun facts about John Wesley, who I lovingly refer to as J-Dubs. So John Wesley lived in London in the 1700s. He was a minister of the Church of England, like his dad. But he was pretty radical for the Church of England, and then they soon weren't so fond of him. He would preach in fields and in street corners, and he thought it was really important to care for those in his community. So he did things like visiting prisoners and spent a lot of time feeding the hungry and making medical clinics. John, with the help of his brother Charles, created a bit of a following, and in doing so, they needed a little bit of structure for a Methodist. So people started making fun of him by calling them Methodists, and it stuck. John Wesley believed that we ought to live our faith out in our community and out into the world. So we formed small groups. There were different types of small groups. First, they had bands, then there were classes, then societies. You see, he had quite a method and a structure. The classes were made up of 12 people who met every week. In 1742, these small groups began to get a little bit unstructured, so he made these big general rules. The general rules stated that the purpose was to meet weekly, to see how it was with each person's soul, to encourage one another or keep one another accountable, and then thirdly, to tithe. Now, we directly tithe to the church, but the concepts are still very similar. And these rules are still published in our book of discipline. And it's these general rules that created the 3 simple rules. So John Wesley believed and taught that we are to follow these simple rules. These rules are to do no harm, to do good, and to stay in love with God. My youth minister would always say, Christianity is simple, but it isn't easy. And I think this is quite the same for these rules. They sound quite simple. They're easy to memorize. Do no harm, do good, stay in love with God. But we all know that once it comes into practice, it becomes much more challenging. And John Wesley knew how challenging these rules were, so he thought it was really important to live within a community. He knew that we would not be able to do it alone, so he focused on these small groups. And the model and community of small group is something that we find directly in Scripture. Jesus was always in a small group, right? With his 12 disciples. Jesus thought it was important to surround himself with those who could learn from him and support him and care for him. We were created to be relational. We were created to be in community. God did not create Adam alone, but created Eve at the same time so they could be together. He did not intend humans to be alone in community. And God thought community was so important that God's self is in community with the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Recently, in our country's history, we have become much more individualistic people. We are less community-bound than we used to be. We isolate ourselves, and now we have devices that are always stuck to our hands and our faces so that we forget to communicate with the people around us. But as Christians, we know that we need those to encourage us, we need to be held accountable, and we need to be with one another. Paul talks about this in his book of Acts. He said, all who believed were together and they had these things in common. They would sell their possession and goods and distribute it to those who needed them. Day by day, as they spent much time together in the temple, they broke bread together. They ate with glad and generous hearts, and they praised God together. And day by day, the Lord added to the number of those who had been saved. We hear this incredible vision of early Christians selling their possessions and spending time with one another, sharing communion together, worshiping and praying. We know that this model is what we are to reflect. As we begin this Lenten journey, maybe you feel like you have something missing. Maybe you go to worship, maybe you also go to Sunday school. But maybe you notice that our Sunday schools are 5, 6, 7 times larger than that of a small group. Maybe you feel like there's something missing. So the clergy and staff believe that implementing these small groups that we're going to call D groups or discipleship groups will very much help our discipleship within our church. So in September, we're going to kick off this big campaign for discipleship groups, these D groups. Some of you are already in them now, so there's some going on, but there's going to be a lot more in September. But if you feel a call to be involved in one right this minute, we are not going to tell you to wait. So if you have a call right now, Ruthie Taylor is your point person. So go to Ruthie and she will make it happen. She will find you 11 other people to be in community with. This curriculum is called One, and it's a curriculum created by Nick Cunningham, who is at Mount Horeb down the street. And it is a great curriculum that focuses on being Christ-centered. It focuses on vulnerability, compassion, and grace. And they focus on creating a community within and then sending them out to go do service together. We truly believe that these small groups are what John Wesley has called us into. May not necessarily be a D group, but to live within community, to keep one another accountable, and to remember what it means to do good, do no harm, and stay in love with God. So as we continue this season of Lent, may each of us consider how different our lives could be if we faithfully lived by these rules. The good news, my brothers and sisters, is that we do not have to do it alone. We have a community of believers around us, and we have the presence of God who will walk with us. But before we go out today, we have the blessing of gathering together at this table. Just as the early Christians feasted together and were fed, we too will come together and be fed and nourished. So that as we go out, we are able to do so more Christ-like than ever before. We pray this in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.